2, 3, 4, get my shoes and out the door. 5, I'm alive. 6, 7, 8, feeling great. 9, gonna shine, life is good. I'm doing fine.
Hello and welcome to Between Sessions, a health and fitness podcast powered by EFM Health Clubs in Australia. My name is Justin Waring, and with me, as always, the most flexible man at EFM, Mike Jewson.
How are we, everybody?
Excellent, never better.
Good.
And the OG from Odin.
Oyen.
Wade Brady. How are you, Wade?
Good, thanks.
Go on. So we thought we'd do a follow-up. I don't want to make this all about me, but it will be. Our last discussion was about how things were going training-wise for me when life got really hectic and I had a big event, something that I've been planning for 9 months. And I had about 2 months out before this ultra trail run that I did on the weekend. And it limited my training time. I had more work to do and things got hectic. So we had that discussion about how I navigated it and how, you know, some advice and some ideas on how you can navigate it at home. And so now that job is done. And I guess what we were going to talk about today, and Mike's got some, an alternative kind of issue that he's been going through, which is why he wasn't on the last podcast, and how mental our life, becomes more than it does physical. So let me set the scene here, and boys chime in with questions. So on Saturday, it's called the UTA. There's 50-kilometre race, 100-kilometre race, 160-kilometre race, and there are some smaller ones, 22 and 11. And I was there on Thursday when my 15-year-old son did the 11K race, which is hard enough in itself. So he ran, and then I did the 50K race starting on Saturday morning. So it's actually 52 kilometres. I didn't realise that. There's an extra 2. And there's about 2.5 kilometres of elevation through Katoomba, Lura, and Wentworth Falls. So I think in all close to 7,000 individual steps to go up and down on top of the 50K. So physically, it seems like it's going to be pretty hard, which is why you do all the training. I can sit here now and say to you that it is far more mentally tough to do that than it is anywhere near physical. So if you can run without injury, of course, 10 kilometres, I think you'll be capable of running 50 yourself. I'll put that out there right now. And I think most people would say I'm an idiot, but if you can run 10, you can run 50. It's what happens between your ears after the last 40.
So another way to frame that for an early question, if you can run 10, your body has enough conditioning to run 50.
So if you're consistently running like 10 kilometres and you're building up, you will be able to physically, you won't be able to do it at your 10-kilometre pace.
Oh, no.
Yes, but so I was given advice from a very wise person at EFM who we had on a little while ago, Andrew Perry, who ran the 100-kilometre race not that long ago, a few years back. And he said to me, the last thing was on the Friday, he said, just run uncomfortably slow. Make sure that you're running uncomfortably slow, particularly for the first half. Stay well within your limits so that you're able to do the back half. So I had that ringing in my mind throughout the entire race. Now, I call it a race, but I'm not racing anybody. So I was still running right up until the last 500 metres when you ascend 980 stairs. That's the last 500 metres. You go up a thing called the further stairs, and there's 981 of them. Took me 20 minutes, and they're brutally, brutally steep. You go up 250, 260 metres vertically.
And that's at the end?
That's at the end. That's at 51.2 kilometres.
Nice.
So and every race finishes with that 981 staircase, the 11, the 22, all the way up to the 160, which they call the miler. Yeah.
How thoughtful of them.
Yeah. So I ran uncomfortably slow, and I've never run in my training. I didn't run over 35 kilometres. That's as far as I got because life got busy. So that last 15 was uncharted territory for me. But I was, yes, happily still running at, right up until the point where you can't run. Well, I can't run up those stairs, but next time I hope I maybe can. So what I'm kind of getting at is that the mentality that you take into these events to run within yourself but also to expose yourself, I guess, to your limits and maybe not putting an end on that limit is far more important, but also far harder than it will be to actually physically have your legs moving for 50,000 steps, give or take.
Can I just
Interesting.
jump in now? I don't know when to ask this question, but
Mhm.
have you ran 50 or 52 kilometers just on roads, like pretty flat
No.
terrain? Because I'd just love to know how much harder is it doing it the way you did it on trail? Would you call it
Yeah.
trail? Like,
Yeah.
how much harder would that be than roads that are pretty
Yeah.
much flat? It'd have to
So-
be so, like, to someone
Oh.
that's really got no idea, and I did 5K cross country many years ago, but like, I just can't understand how much harder that is.
Yeah, so I've done a road marathon, so 42 Ks, and it took 4 hours.
Okay.
And having not great experience and not great understanding of how to do it, my legs blew up at about the 30K mark, and I really struggled. So let's say my average pace, if I was to go for a 10K run, is around 4 minutes 45 a kilometre. That's a little bit of about an 80% effort, 75% effort pace. The 52, I was happy that, and like, other than the checkpoints, I didn't stop moving at any point. Took me 7 hours, 56 minutes. So, and I didn't stop.
Yeah.
I guess a normal marathon, so the Sydney Marathon has about 300 meters of elevation total over 40 kilometers. So it's pretty flat.
Yeah.
Might be 400 or so. And this has got 2.5 kilometers of going up vertically.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of it is stairs, like the first 30 kilometers are stairs. So you're just walking upstairs or running upstairs.
For the not stopping, so I just want to ask questions as we go along. Is that sort of an ego thing that you just want to get to the end and say, I didn't stop once? Or is it that whole thing, if you stop, it's just so much harder to get going again?
I think that's just for me, like, to have the idea that I didn't let my brain tell me that I needed to stop. There was not a point where I felt like, and so the way I think about it is like having a string, right, or an elastic. So you have your, what you think of your physical capacity, and then you have a mental capacity. So all the time you're getting more and more, I guess, tired, and you're further and further into the race, that elastic starts stretching.
Yeah.
Right. And you can actually see when people's elastic snaps and their brain goes, no, that's it, I'm done. And it happens in an instant. And it's happened to me during training runs. You're cruising along, and then without any thought, you just stop. Like, your brain snaps and you're done.
You just make that decision. Yeah.
You've made that decision. So one of, I guess, my goals, and it evolved throughout the race, and a lot of this was like working things out on the fly, was that I didn't ever want my elastic to snap. I wasn't willing to let my brain allow my body to stop.
You don't want it fraying either.
No, I don't want to. Well, I think it frays, but you just, whatever you're hanging on to, it wasn't going to snap for me. And I saw a lot of people just stop, particularly in the last 20 kilometers. They're kind of jogging along, and then all of a sudden they're going downhill, and there's a lot of downhill, and you think, downhill, that's pretty easy. It's so sharply downhill that, your quads do burn a lot. And for the bigger guys, there's a lot of pressure into the knees. So, you got to accept there's some physical issues, but the brain just goes, no, I'm done.
Yeah.
And
So
then
when when you mentioned before that the longest run for training you did was 35.
Yeah.
So were you conscious coming up to that 35K mark of this is what I've done and the next rest of it is going to be uncharted? Were you mentally prepared for that? Did you?
No, to be honest, I didn't think about it in that way, but I did see the 35K marker. There's a checkpoint at 30 kilometers. So I refilled food and water and some snacks and things like that and started running. I saw the 35 and there was a momentary time where I thought, all right, only 15 Ks to go. And then one of the things that, and I think that people kind of need to be aware of when they've got any physical goal is thinking about the end. It's potentially the worst thing you can do. Looking for the
Correct.
finish line,
Yeah,
you know, makes it so much more difficult, and I think allows that elastic to snap at some point because you're just constantly. So I didn't want to think about the finish line at all, and it was there and a sign for me. 35 Ks in.
Yeah.
So I thought, how do I get through this? Because I don't want to think about the finish. I want to stay really present in the moment. What are we doing? So the next sign I thought about it and I go, right, I've only got 15 Ks to go. I need to reframe that to, I'm having a really enjoyable day. This is a lot of fun for me and like I'm enjoying the challenge. Damn it, I've only got 15 Ks left of this and then I've got to wait another year.
nice.
And so, yeah.
Nice.
So then when I saw the 40K marker, I thought the same thing. I've only got 40 to go.
Yeah.
You know,
That's brilliant.
And yeah. And so my wife said, well, but you can't fool yourself forever. Like you can't keep going, oh, I got 10 to go. But it wasn't like that. I honestly thought this is, why do I want this to finish? Like I'm having a great day. Look around me. There's cliff faces. There's lyrebirds I've seen. I can hear all these black cockatoos and, you know, and I'm enjoying this as a challenge. Why do I want this to finish?
Yeah.
And it made me feel a little bit more disappointed the longer I went. So I wasn't looking for the finish line. I was just looking for what was around me.
Enjoying the moment.
Yeah.
That's a really important thing, I think, to think about because a lot of people do in lots of ways in life. They think, oh, you know, maybe starting a new job and they're not great at that job and they think, I just can't wait to be amazing at it. And they miss out on that journey and focusing on the fact that you're going to get there. But this is the fun time. This is the time to learn. You're never going to get this opportunity again for it to be the first few months, or whether you've run this before, done it, you know, in the past, but if this was your first time, it's never going to be your first time again. Yeah. So in stopping and enjoying that moment and being a part of it and present like you were, obviously allowed you to help you get you to the end. But the story you just told is enough. The time you had was obviously so much fun and you enjoyed it. That's hugely rewarding. So remember to enjoy the time, enjoy the moment.
As soon as you said that, Justin, it made me think of when I used to work up in Moomba. I don't know if anyone has been to Moomba, but it's pretty much the middle of the desert with a few dongers all scattered around, and there's nothing there. And I used to do a 3-week stint doing an admin job up there. Anyway, I'd work 3 weeks straight and then have 1 week off. And I'd do the same thing. I'd land there, get my bags, go to my room. I remember thinking, you know, you're walking to your room, you're just thinking 3 weeks, like thinking about all the things you're going to miss out on. And then pretty quickly, it's like, I'm not even going to think about going home. This is just my life now. This is just be in the moment. Look, and every now and again, I'd get to go off site and be out there in the open, and the sky is the biggest sky I've ever seen because it's just so flat, but it is really beautiful, and trying to find these little things that you can enjoy while you're there. But just for what you said before, I did learn pretty quickly to not focus on the end. It was the worst thing I could do. And it's like, well, what do you do then? Well, I'm just going to focus on the little good bits in my day, and just, this is what I do. This is my life now. I'm just going to do this. And then eventually I'll go home again. And it's funny, you sort of got to the point where you were 1 or 2 days off flying out and you go, oh, going home tomorrow. Yeah. Wow. So that'd be something that
Yeah,
I would
the
relate to
equivalent.
that.
Yeah.
I started off because there's a lot of people around the start finish line, and it was 5 to 7 in the morning when we started, and so I didn't put my headphones in. I had them in my bag, and I put Strava on my phone, and I have that on my arm, and so I just started that, and I thought when I need music or podcast or whatever to distract myself, I'll put it in. As the race went on, I didn't want to. Like I just wanted to be, present, concentrate on what I was doing, and also there's real risk of tripping over, and there's lots of uneven kind of trails and stairs and whatever. So it was one of the few times that I've never listened to anything. So I spent 8 hours not listening to any kind of music or whatever, and it actually made the experience far more enjoyable, I thought.
Would you say you felt like you got in a good rhythm and just didn't want to upset that? You didn't want to take a risk of upsetting the rhythm, or?
No, I didn't feel like I needed to.
Okay.
Like I was focused on
Almost-
what I was doing. I didn't, and what I got out of it was that when I do go like road running or trail running, I have my headphones. I like listening to podcasts and books, learning things as I go, but I use it as a distraction. And I think most people use music and podcasts and whatever as a distraction to entertain themselves. I didn't want to have to kind of try and entertain myself. I wanted just to stay present.
Did you think it maybe almost might feel like it would take you out of the moment a little bit, because you then have that distraction? I mean, from the videos you showed us, there was a fair few people around. So, you sort of want to be interacting. Well, I don't know how much interaction you're having when you're running that much, but there's people around you doing it together. So music would kind of take you out, I think, a little bit, wouldn't it?
I struck up a couple of 5-minute conversations with people when we're running at similar paces and having to walk up massive hills, because neither of us were, there was lots of people. The second half, you're going up 8 kilometers and you've got about a kilometer of vertical incline. So the really strong runners may have run early on. When I was doing it, no one was. I saw one guy running up these hills. So you strike up, 5-minute conversations, and then when it flattened out, I started running, and they were either walking or doing whatever. But I'm like, all right, I'll see you later. But yeah, staying up. I didn't want to feel like I needed to distract myself, and it's something going forward for me, running on weekends and going to train and things like that. I think, there'll be times when it's a bit arduous and it's just a common training run. I'll probably need something to listen to, but, focusing on what you're doing, I think is far more advantageous than trying to distract some part of your brain that feels like it needs more entertainment. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And I was just thinking about a guy. So that last set of stairs. So taking one step back, on Friday morning, the 160-kilometer race started. So think about
160.
that. So, 160 kilometers. So they call it a mile. It's 100 miles. And so they started at 5 a.m. Saturday or Friday morning. I was finishing at about 2:30, 2 o'clock Saturday afternoon. And I was climbing up the last set of stairs, and there was a guy sitting on the cliff, just on a ledge next to the set of stairs. And it's there's a lot of camaraderie amongst people. I just said, mate, you okay? What's happening? And he goes, yeah, I'm buggered. Let's say that. I said, he was about 300 meters from the finish. He goes, I can't take another step. I said, no, mate, come on, you'll be right. Let's go. And he said, no, I've been running since 5 a.m. yesterday morning. So he was 32 hours in and said, I'm done. I said, well, you can't stay here. You got to go. He goes, I'll get there, but I can't do it right now. So he'd got to 157.7 kilometers and his mind snapped. He was done. So I'm sure he finished because there's no other way up. You can't go back down and catch a lift. You have to keep going. But I suspect it was because he started to think of the finish line and couldn't kind of distract himself any further. So yeah, that was one lasting memory for me to go, okay, well, thinking of the finish line and getting, the closer you get to your goal, actually the harder I think it probably becomes, because you almost feel like you're done.
It's like the
Your
last bit
elastic
of a
is
long
almost
drive.
stretched.
Yeah.
That
The
elastic
little
is
5
stretched to the
kilometre
limit.
signs, you're 50 away, you're 45. I don't know if you have that in New South Wales, but
Yeah.
if you do a 4.5 hour drive, those last 5 kilometre signs just seem to take forever because you're just focused on getting there.
Yeah. And it's funny. I mean, if you go to this ultra trail like Instagram page or whatever, you'll see people different reactions to finishing. And like I know myself, so the only time I felt not quite like I was in control was the last 60 meters when I saw the finish line and I started to cramp a little bit, my calves. And I'm like, so I said to myself, this is not happening. You're not walking over this cramping. It's not. And it stopped. My calves stopped cramping and I started to jog up the line. Yeah.
You think
Some
because
people
you're picking up the pace?
No, I was just solid, but something kind of relaxed in me.
You saw that finish line and your brain scrambled and
Like, no, it's not happening. So the idea, and I don't know, look, it happened. So I've got to say it's true. They started to cramp. I told them to stop. They stopped.
Crazy.
People get super excited and then they sprint up the finish line. Some people like me just keep jogging at the same pace. Some people are doing cartwheels over the top. Like the reactions are really quite funny. Some people are just so fired up. I was watching, and I'm probably got a little bit obsessed over the weekend, that people doing the 100-kilometer race, they were still coming in like mid-morning on Sunday morning. So they've been going for 28, 29 hours through the night, whatever. I watched a fella who was in the 70 to 79 years age group finish in just under 29 hours. Wow. And I thought, and he was still jogging up the finish line, nothing really too much of extreme celebration. But I thought, like, if a 70-year-old plus fella could run 100Ks through that, like, there's no real physical limit that you should ever, again, if you're injured, that's a different story, but physical limit that you should ever really put on yourself. Yeah. So, and
that's
Michael,
awesome.
You've got that you've been going through a few medical issues, and how you respond to that is like, these kind of things should probably be a bit inspiring, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's, I remember hearing once many years ago, a great saying, and it was to choose your attitude. And sometimes to just stop in a situation and be able to rethink and actually go, you know what, I can choose to approach this way, or I can choose to approach this way. And yes, I've had a few little issues with the health lately, and being a 43-year-old male doing that sort of thing, and most people understand with that realm. I will take this opportunity to say 43 or 40-year-old, 40 to 50, whatever age you are, men, do go and get things checked. Don't just leave it. It is very important. But yeah, I had to stop at one point of this journey, and I'm still sort of going through a few things, and look in the mirror and have a conversation and just say, look, choose your attitude here. You can choose to let this, get me, or I can understand that, we're just testing a few things out, figuring out where we're at, and keep that positive attitude, keep moving forward, keep training, because that was one thing that sort of fell away, was my training. And a few other little things that I enjoy doing that you sort of just, it changes your attitude. So not a physical, broken ankle, broken wrist where I've had to stop doing stuff. It was literally a different type of medical thing where it's really affected my thinking, and I've had to really stop and still doing it, to be honest, and making those decisions and choosing my attitude to approach it in a much better way. So I think it relates to lots of stuff outside of the fitness world as well. These sort of things happen, and you just have to take them on board, but again, allow yourself to stop, think, and choose your attitude.
Yeah.
And potentially challenging yourself to these, like I like challenge. That's what I've found out. You find out a lot about yourself. I like a good hard challenge, and I like to have a bit of a lead up time. So I think entering events like this well in advance allows me to kind of develop a plan and to stick to the plan and to adjust if I need to adjust. But I like that I have a long-term goal, and then when things like medical issues come up, you do feel like you're able to rise to different challenges. Like I know more about myself now than I did last week, and that I'd learned for the last couple of years. Like I understand what I have to do to kind of just organize my brain in a certain way to get some real positivity out of it, and to see, I guess the benefit of the challenges that they're going to get thrown at you. Now, I threw them at myself, but I'm not sure I could do anything more physically hard. Well, I can do the 100 or the 160.
It's a great point. Sorry, Wade, I will, I can relate absolutely the last couple of weeks, even to months. I've learned a lot about myself as well mentally. So I can totally understand what you're saying there. It's a nice thing to have those challenges in. Well, if you look at it a certain way, those challenges come along so we can overcome them and learn a bit more, hopefully.
Yeah.
It's, I guess, the bigger the struggle and you can overcome, like I go to the mountain and the molehill. Like if you've never come across mountains or molehills and you get a molehill one day, that can be a big challenge. But if you can handle the mountains, then a molehill is nothing. I suppose, like for myself, I broke one leg before I turned 18. I broke the other leg before I turned 21. And up until breaking bones, like I'd sprained ankles and done a lot lesser injuries. And I guess when you can overcome those, it's all relative. And then when I had my DVT, just before 23, and I'm told that I have to wear these compression stockings for the rest of my life, and I have to have blood thinning medication forever, and I can't drink anymore, and can't play footy anymore. And you're 22 years old and you live for all that stuff, and particularly when you live in the country, it tests you out, but it makes you who you are too. Because then when you get a bit older and you have other setbacks, they're generally little setbacks compared to the big things you've overcome. So I like that you can go out of your way like Justin did to find something that's going to make you struggle and hurt, and then it better prepares you for so many other things in your life.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to touch on too, that became apparent to me just in the lead up, in terms of just fueling your body for these kind of like extreme events. And like I look at, say, Wade, I know you play basketball. So I ate every 35 to 40 minutes. I had something to eat. So a banana, a muesli bar, a sandwich. I don't really go in for gels too much, but
Can
I had one gel.
Are you carrying all this, or do they have little stations where you can grab stuff?
No. So they have 2 stations, but there's a certain, you have to carry your own water. So you've got to carry 2 liters of water on your back. You have to carry, and then safety equipment, because it's the Blue Mountains, it gets very cold. You need rain gear, you need a beanie, you need thermals, you need a light in case you're still going in the night, your mobile and bags to put your rubbish in, and because you don't want to leave anything in the bush. So, roughly 3 or 4 kilos on your back. And then, as you're drinking, it's getting lighter. And then you get to the aid station and you fill it all back up. Yeah. So that's on your back. So if you're watching any kind of footage on, like, go to Instagram and have a look at these guys. Even the blokes that are doing it at, a rapid speed have all of this on their back. And a lot of people carry walking poles, so you're carrying that too, so you can help get up hills.
Interesting.
Yeah, because you burn. So I burnt, from what I can understand from Strava, around 7,000 calories for the day on top from the exercise. So you need to refuel that. Otherwise, you just, no matter how strong your mind is, your body doesn't have the fuel, right? So What I've talked to my son about, who plays soccer, so they'll warm up for 45 minutes before the game, and then they have a 40-minute first half. So they're going, and we used to go in. Remember when you used to play sport and you get oranges at halftime? That's so gone out of favour. No one does that because I guess no one wants to cut up the oranges and who's buying them and this and that. So it's like, oh, you only really need water anyway. I'd suggest, given my experience and actually having to eat and forcing myself to eat every 30, 35 to 40 minutes, keeping yourself, keeping yourself with enough fuel should be a priority if you're going to do any kind of sporting event. I've talked to both my boys now about actually eating something at halftime in a soccer game, mainly because, like I say, they've got to warm up, then you play, and you're a good hour into exercise. How you perform in that last 10 minutes of the game may well be dictated by your blood sugar levels and hydration from the previous hour.
Even if it gives you an extra 5 or 10% at the end of the game, wouldn't you prefer to have that?
Absolutely,
yeah.
Yep.
And so the guys doing the 100-kilometer race, I know that in one of the last stage stations, they're eating like baked potatoes with huge amounts of butter on it and salt. I know
instant energy. Wow.
Yeah, Andrew told me he ate an entire pizza over the 17 hours he was running the 100 Ks or 15 hours, whatever it was. Wow. So you have these little aid stations, and he pre-packed pizza because they're so densely calorie packed that, eating pizza. So, and as long as you're drinking enough fluid, you'll digest it. It feels like it's going to be heavy, but you're burning through so many calories that. So just a note to everyone, maybe think about nutrition in your sporting, individual sporting events and try and, it won't take much research. AI will tell you how many calories you'll probably burn and what you need to refuel. Also, those sporting gels, I heard a podcast, a lady and a nutritionist say that for every one of those pre-packed gel, sports gel things, you need about 250 mils of water to be able to digest it. So along with the gel, you need to drink, a quarter of a bottle or half a bottle of, water.
Yeah, wow.
Otherwise, it sits in your gut. So all those people out there that get sick when they have these gels, I suggest you're not drinking enough water either.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, but just a side of nutrition, because it's such a long event, you can't just keep going. You need to think about how your body's working, fueling.
What it's going through, yeah.
So from a practical sense, you're staying on the jog while getting your backpack off and unzipping it while you're running along and getting something out and holding it while you put your bag back on.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. That's a different way to think about it. I mean, most people out there probably thinking, I run with nothing, no backpack, not even a phone or anything like that, where you've got to have all that stuff for safety, obviously, and comfort. So that's a big mental hill right there to change that and add that to your run.
What about heart rate monitor? Did you have a heart rate monitor on?
No.
No, because I know when I do the odd run and push it, I spend a lot of the time in the red zone, which is over 90% max heart rate. And I think once you reach max heart rate or near max, even if you slow right down, off my experience, you don't really drop below 80% max heart rate. I'd just be fascinated to know the highs and lows of what your heart rate did throughout.
So I'd suggest while I was running, I was into like the 65, no more than 70. And then while I was walking up the hill, it would have peaked into the 80s and 85s. The hills were brutal.
So you like marching up the hills, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got your hands on your knees and you're driving, your knees down to try and create a bit of power, swinging my arms to try and get a bit of momentum.
What's the easiest bit, like the recovery? Is it just slightly downhill?
Look, it's probably dumb, but I prefer slightly uphill. Okay. And one of the things I did, regardless of how big the hill was, I put my head down and I didn't look up until I felt it flatten out. like I didn't, particularly the long, like last 20 Ks is long and winding. Head down, wait for the terrain that you feel it change under your feet, because I don't want to look up and see that I've got X amount
that
to
finish
go.
line, that end of that hill, that's you're not looking, concentrating on the end, you're keeping yourself. Interesting. I want to ask one thing. How did your fingers go and your hands go? Because I remember years ago, one of the members at Rocco's club that I used to work with, she and I we attempted to do Eurobilla here in Adelaide, and we did not. They had stations along the way to grab food and stuff, and we fueled and what have you. But by the end of, I think we didn't actually finish. We didn't fuel properly, and I think we were about 5 Ks away, and the sweeper came along and said, guys, you need to hurry up, otherwise we're pulling you. And unfortunately, the member that I was with at the time just snapped and said, no, we're done. And she said her fingers were on fire. They felt fat and chubby, and to touch them, they were really quite sore. Did you experience anything like that?
No. So when we go for a long bushwalk and your hands are down by your side and the blood's flowing to them, they'll get big and fat. Because I was running, they were just sitting underneath my rib cage, so they didn't.
Yeah, that's what I kind of visualized when it happened with us. So interesting.
Yeah. So it doesn't tend to happen for
So you
me.
got
But if
small elbows then?
No. No.
It flowed back to the up. No.
So
I've never heard that before, Michael, about the hands.
Yeah.
I think if you go for a walk for an hour and you've just got your hands by your side, it'll happen to everybody.
Yeah. Well, I experienced it a little bit when we did do this. When I felt it, I remember at one point, I had a backpack on for that one, and I think a lot of the time I held my hands here, if I remember. But I do remember stumbling at one point and sort of bracing and putting my hand on a tree and going, whoa, why my fingers, why did they just blow up? And I felt that pressure. But it was something that just, I remember it popping up, and it was something that was a bit different. I hadn't heard it before either.
Yeah. Look, I guess in wrapping all this up, what I'd say is, and kind of challenge everybody out there. And EFM is very good at kind of getting people out of their comfort zone. So I'm going to challenge everyone listening to go and find something that's going to put you completely out of your comfort zone. Now, you can do the whole 9-month preparation thing and make it really, really challenging for yourself like I did, or you can just select a goal for yourself and tell us about it if you're in the club. Tell us about it and we'll help you get there and devise a training plan or whatever. But without that kind of, and look, I'm not amazing at setting goals, but once I have an event that I've paid for and I'm committed to, I work really hard towards doing it. And I guess that's what a goal should do. Perhaps don't make it about how wide your stomach is, or reducing weight. You can do that, but have something that can allow you to rejoice what your body can do, not punish yourself because of any kind of past failings. Let's really challenge, and something that's going to challenge your mind, kind of create this gap between what you can do now and what you think you can do, and step beyond that going, I'm not even sure that's humanly possible for me, but I'm going to give it a go anyway. It's only that last little gap between what you think you can do and what you're pretty sure you can't is where you find these extra little nuggets of gold that I feel like I've found, and now I can say I'm kind of feel addicted to looking for that next kind of hit to go, okay, well, how much more can I do for myself?
It just training for an event, I think, just seems like such a more positive motivation as opposed to losing weight or burning fat. Like, to me, that sounds like a more negative motivation.
Yeah.
Like if I wanted to increase my vertical leap for basketball or something, that's cool. That's exciting. And then when you're doing your training, you're really focusing on, doing it properly so you can get there. So True Grit, our members just did True Grit, and they know there's rope climbs and climbing over things. So when they're in the club, it just opens up your scope, I suppose, a lot more as to, it's more exciting.
Yeah.
I think that
I don't know
comes
how to
back
better
to the
explain.
mental side of it. Like exactly what you're saying. If you think about, okay, yeah, we're talking about losing weight and clothes fitting better or stomach smaller. That's a very physical thing. Obviously, it's very mental as well. But rewarding yourself with something fun and making it a challenge mentally as well, where you go, it's something I enjoy doing, running with vertical leap. I want to be able to be better at that. That's a reward up here. You're not just going to see it down there. It's a different type of goal, I think.
And what is happening too, if you have that event goal, it's working towards that other goal anyway.
Exactly. It covers that. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, boys.
Be
Let's leave it
imaginative.
there. Thanks for indulging me and allowing me to have like this stream of consciousness and unpack everything. And when I do figure out what the next, so I'll tell you now, if I can, I'll be entering next year and I'll do the 50. And then I haven't told my wife, but I'll attempt to do a 100K race, in a couple of years. And mainly because I know how I work, I want to get a little better at the 50 and like have be better physically prepared to see what I can do, and then go, all right, now it's time to take a step up and go again.
But just that is in reverse to what the average person would think. I'm sorry, you're getting past your prime now, Justin, but look at how you're talking, and you're exactly right though.
Yep.
You know what
a
I
lot
mean?
of people would go, tick, done that. That's me done.
Well, people would probably think
you're going to go up.
People might think when you were 38 in your absolute prime or 40 or whatever, shouldn't you have done the 150 then? But it doesn't work like that.
No.
Nicely said.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, boys. All right, next week or in the next episode, we've got some guests lined up, maybe a couple of previous guests to talk about something I think that'll be really valuable for everybody. So before that, I'm about to post some videos that I took whilst I was running. If you want to see bits of the Blue Mountains you've never seen before.
Check them out. They're beautiful.
Yeah. Find that on EFM Westmead, Mike at EFM Underdale, and Wade at EFM McGill. Thanks, boys.
Thank you for taking us on that journey. We've done it without having to put the work in now.
Yep. It was fantastic. Very interesting. Yeah.
Good on you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, boys.
See you guys.
See ya.
See you, everybody.
All right.